Hi there. Our meditation for this is going to be very simple. To take some slow, steady breaths in and out, releasing stress as we exhale. Now we're going to regulate our breathing by counting to 4 on the in-breath, pausing for 4 before we exhale, counting to 4 as we exhale, pausing for 4 before we inhale. This is called squared breathing. I'm going to do it with you. Inhale for 4. Okay. After doing a few rounds, return to breathing normally. The next thing we want to do, take our left hand and move it over to our right knee and then return it. Take our right hand, move it over to the left knee and return it. And now we're going to count to 20 as we do this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Take a nice deep breath. Exhale completely. And resume normal breathing. We have now synced both sides of our body, both hemispheres of our brain. And as we go into the reading, we set the intention for this or something better, meaning we will not be limited by what we encounter in the reading, that we will only use it for our highest good and the highest good of all. And if there is something better, we wish to line up with that. Okay? And let us begin. So, reflection number 1. Let's see what the cards have to say. Clean. Root grounding dance. Environment. Sentimental. Feel it. Interesting. Got the Violet Flame card from the Beyond Lemuria deck, as well as the Reclaim Your Energy. So somehow your energy is going to a coping mechanism that is helping you avoid feeling something. Something that's in your root chakra. Something that is being activated by your environment. There may be a scenario where you're now seeing your child go through something that you went through. That's for some of you, or at least one of you. Beware of great pride. Stubborn, aggressive person. Opportunity or windfall. Now, psychic ability, trust your intuition. Like you see this, you see something is off, you see that this is a cycle that's repeated or that you're avoiding something. So it could be sentimentality. It could be sentimentality. But basically, the opportunity or windfall comes with the energy you get back when you stop avoiding feeling this thing. And the reason is because there's an elaborate coping structure that you have been living in. You probably don't know the lengths that you've been going to in order to avoid feeling this thing. It's ready to be transmuted. For some of you, this is the remembrance of a death of a loved one. Perhaps even it could have even happened in the family home, I'm hearing. But it could have just been a family member for some of you. Okay. To get a few more cards. So I'm going to pause you just to save some editing time. We'll be right back. It'll only be a moment for you. I got the feeling as I was dealing out some cards that of like when you're parenting a toddler and you have your toddler like protesting, like the toddler doesn't want to do what you want them to do. And I felt this rushed feeling, like maybe you're really in a hurry and the kid won't, I don't know, go through the nighttime routine so you can get your chores done so you can get to bed, or maybe it's like the child just received a gift from somebody. And instead of, letting them like just take it in and enjoy and just like, wow, digest it, maybe open it and be inspired to say, wow, thank you. I really like this. You like tell them, say thank you, and there's this feeling that you have a child or you were a child who really rebelled against that or wanted to. And, it's possible that for you, it was stifled out of you. This sort of like wanting to be your own person. There is a certain stage in being a toddler where the independence is really budding and meant to be nurtured and allowed, and that children are often stifled through and put into boxes about what is appropriate to do and think and feel and act. And this is a place where their curiosity can be punished instead of nurtured and allowed and understood, simply because there's a busy parent, there's an exhausted, overwhelmed parent. There is maybe an overthinking parent that isn't present, that is just always thinking about the next thing or planning this or that, or wanting things to be just so. So you have a strong-willed child, and this is either talking about you actively do have this child in your life, or you were this child. Be reminded of it by seeing somebody else parent their child. Maybe it's tough bedtime, tough bedtimes, and I think even celebrations are somehow affected here. There's something is highlighted here with a celebration. Maybe you wanting it to be just so, or the child having certain behaviors that you don't think should be part of it, sort of thing. If you do have an actual child in the picture here that's being like this, imagine that they're showing you a part of you that wants to rebel, that has another way of doing it, that wants to get off this schedule, that needs a rest, that wants to just be a little wild and crazy and fun. There's a lot of energy going into overthinking and creating the environment which will mold the child. However, do we want to mold the child? Or do we want to allow the child to unfold? Can we see what this child is meant to be? Can we see who they become and who they are when we provide them the safe space to be that? I think children are very kind. I don't think maybe in a family where if your child doesn't say thank you when they get a gift, maybe someone gets offended. But is it more important to carry on that pattern of prompting the child to be on automatic response? Or is it more important to allow the child to be free to express themselves naturally? Because if the child has examples of people saying thank you when they get a gift, that's how the child learns to do it. Isn't it so much more meaningful when a child just says thank you because you can see that really it's pouring out of them. They have gratitude and appreciation. I've had that experience, and it was just a contrast, right? It was like, wow, like no one told her to say this, and she just said it, and it's like, it meant so much more than any other time any of us had told her to say thank you. Telling someone to say thank you, is it more about the other person and what they might think, And if that's an adult, can that person manage their own emotions? Can they be responsible for how they feel when a child doesn't say thank you right away? When a child wants to be in the moment and unwrap it and experience it first and see what it is. Sometimes we're telling our kids to say thank you. They don't even know what it is. These are just examples for you to kind of get the feeling that I'm talking about here. So it could be other scenarios, other, experiences that you're having that have this kind of feel where a child is strong-willed and not really compliant to what's expected of them. And really, this is a gift. Now, if you were the child that was not appreciative of the expectations put on you and felt stifled, there's a feeling buried within you about that. Well, it might be holding a little bit of grudge against the people who did that to you. And it's probably not something you're willing to acknowledge, and you probably have put on rose-colored glasses in order to maintain a relationship, but the little child part of you might still be a little bit upset about that. Maybe one of the ways that you cope is trying to manage your children and make sure they don't upset your parents in that same way that you did. But we got to break this cycle here. I was just thinking about how you got the Violet Flame card, and I was just asking, how does that fit in here? I wasn't immediately getting an answer, so I was just kind of taking a moment to see if anything else came with regard to that. Oh, I have this deck in my hand. I'm going to shuffle it and see. Am I consistently showing up? You may feel like, yeah, I'm always busy, I'm always doing something. But it's like, oh yeah, but that's distracting you from actually showing up and being present with self, with how you feel, right? Like, how can you even notice how you feel if you're always thinking and always doing? Queen energy is showing that shadow of just sort of like over-controlling, over-protecting, over trying to make everything just so. Protest, start a revolution. It can be done a different way. You're being invited to transmute the old way. So acknowledge that you've had this pattern. Maybe you're able to identify the grudge now that I mention it. Maybe you can recognize there's a part of you that feels hurt if your parents say to your child, you need to say thank you, or, just there's some experience in your day-to-day life that's alerting you to something being off. Now, you might have to really slow down to kind of get in touch with it, because you've been sort of busy, right? You've been avoiding this in a way that seems so natural. It's like, of course you're doing that because that's how you survived in the household you were brought up in. This is saying, okay, and now you're going to change this for your inner child and for those that come after you. Surrender. You can only control your response. Accept how you feel fully. So even if you don't have an experience coming to mind, imagine how you would feel if someone did that or said that. Projections, allow us to see ourselves in another. You are what you see in them. The energy is filtering your view. That's where you're seeing it. Okay. So you may have a niece or a nephew, and you might be the one seeing that the niece or nephew doesn't say thank you, right? as an example, right? You might be the one that feels a certain way when you don't get the response that you thought you should get. And you might be thinking, putting the rose-colored glasses on, silently holding a grudge. You might be thinking yourself into reassurance that you shouldn't take it personal, but really you've got this underlying feeling that takes it personal, but maybe you're showing on the surface like not upset about it, but you know that there's something been poked in there when you see somebody else do a certain thing. And it's something about the way they parent their child, their stubborn child maybe, or their child that just doesn't conform. And it may have happened recently at a celebration that you attended. Could have even had a dream about it. So anyway, this feeling though that's in there, acknowledge that you have it. Validate why. Why do you feel that way? It's valid for you to feel that way. So let's validate it and bring it to light and understand yourself. Your life experiences showed you a reason why that thing make you feel that way. So acknowledge that and then accept that here's where you are. You've been having this feeling. Now, this feeling is actually rooted in an experience that you had earlier on. And you are being invited to neutralize this feeling first by accepting it, accepting that you have it, that it's your feeling. You might have been blaming it on them, but it's actually your feeling. And now you're going to be present with the feeling by not wishing it was different, by not blaming anyone else at this point. It's now something that can be with you. You're not thinking about the past or the future, just allowing that feeling to be with you. And there's no time limit on this. You're going to allow the feeling to be with you. And you, in the process of doing so, will become the version of yourself that can handle this feeling. You'll no longer be resisting it below the surface and only seeing this outside of yourself. You now become the version of yourself that can feel and heal and process that feeling by just letting it be with you. You are the version of yourself that can process that feeling. The feeling will move on its own. Now, when you encounter the same type of experiences, you will not have that same underlying feeling pressing on you because you will be the version of yourself that can process it through. What the experience you've been having is just an indicator of something that was still unprocessed inside you from your own childhood. You brought balance and justice to it. And this allows you to regain all the energy that you were using to overthink the situation, to calm yourself down, to avoid feeling that feeling, and to see it outside of you, which may have caused rifts in your relationships. All of that energy is now returned to you. That completes your reading. Hello, you chose reflection number 2. We got the vessel, slowly but surely getting ahead, the tortoise, caterpillar, things will not always be this way, a change is coming. Gong, an exciting event. sorrow over a loss, we got pressure reveals truth, pattern, completed, partnership, forgiveness. Got the Earth Star Chakra, intuition. All right. So the sense I have here is that there is some sort of cycle that you've been going through. Is about to be completed. Sort of feeling into the storyline, and I just feel like some more cards would be appropriate. So, one moment. Okay. You're seeing the other side of something where you had a lot of hope. You're being asked to heal from this wanting to know the outcome of a situation. Okay, so I put this. Okay, there's a situation that you have had a lot of hope for. It feels a very important situation, like something that your soul is here to experience. There are a lot of unknown factors. Tea bag broke in my cup. While I was paused, I took a sip. So it's like something's like a little bit off. Something kind of broke, and now things look a little different. Okay, but it's like the bubble was always meant to be burst. It doesn't mean the situation is over. It means the situation is still in process and unfolding. But what the loss is that the cycle of you always thinking something certain and then perpetually staying in that hopeful state. Feel like this is a potential partnership. I don't know at what stage you are. If you've met them, if you haven't met them, I'm not sure. Maybe there's a separation, maybe something like that. Because we got partnership, we got forgiveness. I think the cycle is this. One person continuously hopes to come together. We got fifth house, romance, children, happy family, fun, creativity, creation of a relationship, while the other one experiences that as a feeling of pressure, which is an expectation. So these two people are very energetically sensitive. I was going to say to each other, but also in general, I think. So we've got sextile here, so that's like a more subtle energy. Been in a cycle. This has been a cycle, okay? So you may have gone many rounds of one person hoping that things are going to come together and the other person feeling the pressure of that. Now, the pressure of that apparently doesn't feel good to that person, right? They don't feel free. They feel boxed in by it. It's pressured. And there's some way that you're seeing the other side of this now. You always meant to see the other side of something. And the other side is requiring both people to forgive. Like, forgive yourself for hoping, and then also forgive yourself for feeling too pressurized to just show up to something. You know, maybe you never even knew why you couldn't show up, and it was because, depending on which party you are, but it was because there was an expectation of you. And it's like maybe you never understood why you were waiting around for this partnership to come together, and you didn't realize that waiting around and having an expectation of this partnership coming together was the energy that you were trying to see within yourself and break apart from, right? Because we want to honor free will, so everything has to be a potential. And when something's a potential, I think it's natural to want to put effort into it and work on it and develop it and create it, right? So I don't think necessarily something's wrong in the process. I just think that there's something else, something unique that needs to be done in this situation. Like, it's not typical. Yeah, it's not typical. We're working together to realize something that you see as a bigger picture view, having had this experience of staying in a cycle of one hoping and the other feeling the pressure of expectation because of it. So I have a reading on my channel of talk about upgrading from hope to faith. And the whole video is about how hope can limit us, because while hope is very important to have when you don't think things are going to work out, you hope for them. When you actually get to that stage of hope, you can realize that if you're at the vibration of hope, all you can ever line up with is hoping for more. Like, you don't have the thing if you're in the vibration of hoping for it. That means you don't have it. So if you want to line up with it, you have to be in the vibration of faith. Hope is a limiting vibration. Faith allows free will. Faith says this or something better. Faith says, I trust in the divine orchestration of things. You know, this could be about friendship, right? This could be about someone wishing for a best friend in general, like as a plea to the universe, right? It's like, I wish for this. I wish for a partnership, a friend, like someone I can grow and learn with, right? And it's like, okay, but as you are in that vibration of hoping for it, you can only line up with hoping for it. If you want to line up with it, you have to have faith that you deserve it, that it's coming, that it's already yours, that you're lining up with it. And then that other party, who is the match to you in this capacity, doesn't feel resistant to the partnership because there's no expectation. And expectation means you have to fit in the box that I say you're in. Instead, let's make an agreement about how we're both going to show up in the partnership when there is a partnership to discuss. Perseverance, dreams, creation. So this is just a matter of transmuting the way you've been hoping for something. The pattern of doing it that way is now ready to be transmuted so that you can actually line up with and resonate at the frequency of having it. You know, it's not wrong that you did so many rounds of it in the hope place, because what you did while you did that was you stabilized. Now when you resonate with it, it's going to be so stable because you've already worked out all the other reasons why it wouldn't have come, right? Like you already know you're worth it. You already know they exist. You already know that there are limitless possibilities in the world. You already know that a healthy friendship doesn't have expectations of each other, that you make agreements and both show up that way. You already know that it's good to be discerning about the people that you let in your life and who you're going to trust. And you already understand what a healthy relating dynamic does look like and does not look like. You know, there's all these other things that you've worked on in the meantime of while you were hoping for this thing. And you created the solid foundation that you need for this thing to be on. So the only thing left to do is to upgrade from your hope into the faith. And this puts you on the timeline of lining up with your creation of this partnership. So this is about not holding any grudges for the way that it's been, for how long it's taken, you know, for God or source or even the other person to not show up, and forgive yourself for the whole process you've been in and that you haven't lined up with it yet, because it was just like this whole process. And now look what you know about the process of lining up with something like this. You know what it takes to have this kind of alignment in your life. And maybe you can streamline the process given that you've made a lot of the mistakes. And they're not really mistakes, but sometimes it's just as important to know what doesn't work as it is to know what does work. So you are invited to upgrade to this timeline where you allow this for yourself by leaving the pattern of being perpetually in hope. So you acknowledge you've been in hope, validate why you've been in hope, because you didn't have it and you wanted it, and accept that you've been in hope, you've been in the vibration of wanting it instead of having it. And now be present with that vibration of wanting it, right? Integrate that. The feeling of wanting it. Let it be with you. You're admitting that you want it. You're allowing that feeling of wanting to be with you, and you're becoming the version of yourself that can process wanting without making it the focal point, without making it the everything, without making it the dominant vibration within you. It's now integrated into the wholeness of who you are and everything you've been through up to this point. And up to this point, you've known yourself to be a good friend and worthy of this partnership. So when that feeling is fully integrated, you become this version of yourself who has faith, who understands that the universe can line you up because you are in the vibration of having and being the partner. Room for mystery. You don't have it all figured out. You're not attached to the outcome. You are not having expectations of the other, how you're going to meet, how it's going to look, any of that. Okay. This completes your reading. Hi. You chose reflection number 3. I think it's something here where in the past you went with the flow of things in a way that you may not have. You may have been a little bit naive or just a bit too trusting, but you may have realized that it was quite a lesson that you learned, trusting somebody who was exploitative, abused their authority. Maybe you gave them too much authority. I think they were really fun, and like there was probably even people like envious of the situation you were in. You might have even been in a marriage with this person. And so this was like the life of the party, a musician maybe, like someone who was really free and intelligent and like witty and all this kind of stuff. And you had to learn about the importance of not going with the flow all the time. Like you had to probably learn that your self-esteem put you in the situation to be in a relationship that was pretty abusive and not very fulfilling for you. They maybe put you on a back burner, like had other priorities besides the marriage and you or the relationship. I think they may have traveled a lot. And this reading is acknowledging that you got out of that situation, that you understand that you had a lot to learn, and that you've taken kind of like the gold out of the situation. And you understand where the flags are, right? But that you do there may still be part of you that thinks back to that time, right? And it may be a part of you that is afraid to trust again. Does this part, I don't think this is true for everyone, but maybe this part also indulges in nostalgia and sentiment about the relationship, missing the good times. May have this person on a pedestal, or you did in the past. I think there was a divorce here. I think it affected you greatly, even financially. You may have been the one who wanted to travel after this. Some of those traits that you appreciate in the other are actually existing in you and just waiting to be nurtured. This fire in you that you may have only seen in them and projected onto them exists in you. Release your guilt. Shuffling some cards here. Thank you for your patience. Phoenix, how's that for a happily ever after? Yeah. I have the sense that, from this, there is something blooming. There is a part of you that you didn't own before and may have now been inspired to. It's like all those things, those fun things that you remember about the other, they actually exist in you. Minus the abuse. So some of you, those things might have been originally suppressed through relationship with the mother. Or because you were a mother, you may have been otherwise engaged, right, with mothering. You may have had other priorities rather than to play and have fun and dance. This is saying pace yourself. This is saying like you are getting there. You're in process. This isn't like go from one extreme to the other kind of thing, and you're not that kind of person anyway. what you're doing is you're flowing through, and this is a recognition that you are headed somewhere where you are feeling much more fulfilled and embodying those parts of yourself that you hadn't yet unmasked to the world, I heard. Create. You have something to create. Something to create that is inspired by the wisdom you've gained and the experiences you've had. Tell me about this person now. Tell me about them right now. So what you're doing is you're working on your self-esteem, really loving self-care rituals, really, really loving the self up, because I think you've been living in a state of sacrifice for a long time. So the fire that's been lit under you should be used for self-care. I think that you're seeing yourself as an intelligent, sensual being. Oh, and it looks like you may meet somebody in your career. Okay. It's interesting because when I first started laying out the cards, we got marriage and announcement, and I thought it was going to be, a marriage announcement. But then the reading, as I went on, it talked about this separation or divorce, a parting of ways with someone who wasn't so great for you. And for some reason, it really just wanted me to acknowledge that before we get into talking about the fact that you are now entering a new segment of life that's sort of like the phoenix, and it's rising from the ashes, but it's also a slow, steady build. And somehow, for some reason, that's really important here. Okay, you're not just like shooting up out of the ashes. You're like building up slowly and surely, very, very conservatively, but also like considerately, for yourself and those around you, and just like creating the foundation of self-care that will sustain what it is you're about to build. Okay, because this level of what you're about to build needs a very solid foundation. Like you need to have your self-care routine down. You need to like really have embodied this idea of self-love and valuing who you are and loving who you are and loving your body and loving the routines that you indulge in and loving what you do with your time and loving the people that are around you. And really just, and it doesn't mean never being challenged. It means, never abandoning yourself in a challenge. It means being the good friend to yourself so that you build good friendships in others. It means checking yourself all along the way and making sure that you are acting in truth, that there's no more glossing over and sort of like putting people on pedestals, that you're really grounded and that you're really solid in what you're building for yourself, so that when you do create again, having gained all this wisdom from the experiences you had, it's going to be very, very fruitful and very worthwhile, and all the parts of you will be integrated and fully available to live through. You may have an interest in human design, or you might be inspired to look at it when I mention it, if it feels like something that interests you, because there's this whole exploration of self going on now that is very easy, that is very fun, that is exciting, that you're driven and passionate about. And it leads to much, much more. But for now, it's like a you and you kind of thing. Maybe you might be saying, well, it's been me and me for a while. But has it been you and you at the level that you're going to bring it to, with the passion that you have for really, really showing yourself the level of care that you deserve? You know, it just gets better and better as you go. And it's just a solid bond that you're building within yourself. Anything that you see outside of you that, you know, it's like if you feel jealous or envious of other people who don't have to go through the process you're going through, then that's just something within yourself that needs your love. Like, it really is all about you and you. And in the parts of you that might be disappointed for that are just parts of you that are awaiting your love. Like, every little bit of yourself is awaiting your love. And then you get on board with this like wholeness, and that gives you the confidence that, oh, I am showing up for myself. Oh, I do have my back. Oh, I can be this part of myself too. Oh, I can express this. Oh, I can try this out. Oh, I can experiment here. There's going to be trial and error, and it's okay. It's going to be okay to make mistakes. So the part of you that might be afraid of making mistakes is now loved. Part of you that might be scared to travel is now loved, is now experimented with, is now owned and indulged in. Yeah, your reading is about understanding that you got some fire and some passion, and you used to see it outside of you, but it exists in you, and you've been cultivating the space to embody it. And it's a powerful energy. And so this process that you're going through might feel subtle, but it's actually just because of the level of solidity, the how solid your foundation needs to be, wants to be, is becoming. Beautiful. That is your reading.